Well, alrighty then. Like a famous comedian from the 90s who's still around but doesn't have as great as a career as he used to have, Jim Carrey used to say, alrighty then. Yay! We are here, folks. We are here. And by here, I mean you are now seeing greatness in all its glory. And by that, I mean just me in this face right here. That's what I was referring to. Oh, you got Vince too. Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
But yes, you guys, I am your lovely, adjective-filled, pronoun-filled, introduction-filled host, Laren Maxstar Moore.
And I am the sidekick married to the fly chick.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, all right, that's a keeper.
Shout out to the best.
All right, the Mrs. All right, well, you guys, and with that being said, you are on the fourth episode, number 4, $4 foot long is what that should be. I don't know, I couldn't think of anything. I always come up with a little song. But yes, you guys, you have made it to popcorn
and booze.
Ah, there it is! See, now I feel left out. I should have had the popcorn. Why didn't you tell me that you had an adult beverage?
I was going to surprise you. I was going to surprise. Got to keep you on your toes. Got to keep you on your toes. And now I'm going to nurse this for the entire show. Like, I'm only going to have the one. I won't even finish it by the end because I want to make sure. I have water too. I'll probably drink most of that. But yeah, I figured like, oh, it'd be nice to have that little, or like the little Wayne lighter before he starts like one of his songs.
Oh, that's right. Or his his little signature throat clearing, which I on many of my tracks have found myself doing. Not that way though, but there's a couple tracks where I know I'm about to go in bar wise, so I'll do my little signature ooh, or I'll do the.
I thought you were saying like clear throat. You're like, it's not Corona. I swear to God.
Yeah. When I do the tribute to Corona song, I will be sure to hack and cough in the beginning, to add effect to the song. With that being said, no better way to start a show than with a COVID-19 joke, folks. So you guys, this is the fourth episode of Popcorn and Booze. You know the show, with a contemporary sense of humor. I thought of that. And it's a show based around pop culture. What else, Vince? We talk about film. Fill them in. What else? What else we got?
We try and talk about what's going on. We mainly will focus on like pop culture, movies, TV, hip hop, wrestling. Sometimes we'll branch out into other other music. If something very big culturally is happening in the world, like let's say we started the show right when COVID-19 was shutting everything down, like we'd have to talk about that. Be like, all right, we're all sitting at home now because this is crazy.
I know.
If there's any new developments in that, we will probably address it. But for the most part, we like to keep it light. Like to keep it very pop culture friendly, contemporary, like you said.
Very contemporary, and we, with thanks to my lovely co-host here, there are some really cool, fun music cues as well. All right. Well, shall we get right into it, good sir?
Yes.
What are we starting off with, Mr. Eustace? Eustace.
All right, so
Eustace.
Last episode, we touched upon the whole thing with Jada Pinkett-Smith and August Alsina and rumored affair, and we thought it was over with. They denied it. He said it was true. But of course, whenever there's a big topic, Jada Pinkett-Smith has to address it on her Facebook. I think it's Facebook Watch show. Red Table Talk, and she's not above putting herself in the hot seat as well. She had teased that she was going to interview herself, but she actually had mega superstar, one of my personal favorites, Will Smith, her husband, to sort of sit across from her and not interview her per se, but they just kind of had like a back and forth dialogue. I don't know how long an episode of the show normally is, but it was about 12 minutes long. Felt like it was pretty digestible. But she ended up saying that she did have an entanglement with August Alsina. And some other things that sort of came out were that Will and Jada were not on the verge. They were broken up. They were going to.
In his exact words, I was done with your ass.
Yes.
That's exactly what Wilson has said during that interview.
And I want to believe them and say, like, all right, this was very well. If you want to be cynical about it, they could be just saving face PR wise to be like, oh, well, we weren't really technically together. We were on a break or we were done. So it wasn't cheating necessarily. But yeah, it took a while for Jada to admit that there wasn't a relationship or an entanglement, and Will kind of held her to that. They joked around a lot, but you could also, there was a lot of memes going around of Will looking sort of hurt and teary-eyed. There was a couple moments where, well, I guess let me hear your thoughts, and then I'll delve back in, because I mean, there was, even though it was only 12 minutes, there was kind of a lot happening there.
Yeah, I didn't watch. I didn't watch the entire episode because I really could not stomach the verbiage Jada was using. It was becoming a bit overwhelming and a bit like what I said it was. It was just verbiage and talking points, and her admitting to a situation, obviously with August, but her slightly dancing around it as well. And here's what I don't like about stuff like this. Sometimes you have these celebrities that get caught in some type of situation or what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Entanglement.
Yeah, right. That's really what I want to say. An entanglement, controversy. They get entangled into controversy, and the first thing they want to do is it's one of two things usually. It's usually deny it. It didn't happen. Be very dismissive of it, or make excuses, or they play off this role of no. I'm gonna own up to it, and I'm going to address it, and I'm going to be open and honest, and yada yada yada, and I'm gonna be admirable about it. And usually, personally, I'm like, okay, that's cool, especially if you're in the wrong. And I'm not even saying Jada was in the wrong. It's not really a wrong or right situation. I think it was a very unnecessary one, in my opinion. But then again, I don't know, like you said earlier, I don't know the arrangements Will and Jada have. We can easily sit here and say that they were broken up and that Will and her had a bad batch of time where she was like, you know what, I need to take a break. I need to go get me some young meat. I mean, granted, Will does look like he's 30 still, but, he is 50. So maybe she was like, I'm sick of your 50-year-old penis, and I want to go get me some young August Alsina penis, and I want 20-year-old penis, 20-something-year-old penis. Whatever the case was, or vice versa. Will was like, I'm sick of your old, dried-up 50-year-old vagina. You need to go somewhere. Whatever the case is. Or if it's a case of what we've been hearing, what I'm sure you've heard over the years. I've been hearing this shit for 20 years since I was a kid, that Will Smith and Jada are pretty much freaks. They some big old freaks. They swing. They have an open relationship. I've even heard rumors about Will Smith liking men, like not so much liking men, but when they have done the swinger thing, Will has actually gone with other men and Jada has gone with other women. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying these are what the stories have been swirling. And if that's the way they live their lives as a couple, that's their business. But again, let me revert back to what I was saying. When you come to these situations with this, I'm going to tell it all, and I'm going to be honest, then I feel like then that's what you should do or don't do it. I just felt like she was doubling back. I felt like her and Will weren't being completely honest. This is just my opinion. I don't feel they were being completely honest. She kept throwing out this entanglement bullshit. And like you said, Will Smith, her own husband, checked her on it. Now whether he's in on it or not, whether this was the way she's talking, I'm going to be honest. The way she's discussing it, the verbiage she's using, the way she's talking, the context of it really comes off to me is that this was an arrangement. That it was that Will Smith probably went up to August and said, "Look, me and Jada aren't doing very well right now. You're young, you're hot right now. Listen, go have some fun with my wife. Show her a good time for a few months, and then we'll reconvene." Or I think that's what happened, but it could have been an issue of where they did break up. Whatever the case is, Will Smith's face throughout this thing, or what I remember watching, and the memes that you had talked about, is very much it's anger. It's anger. It's hurt, but it's also it's this look of I can't believe that me and you actually have to come on a show and even talk about a fucking August Alsina.
Yeah.
Like, it's this total look of we should be above this. And you know what? I agree. To me, that I don't even know why that's a thing. You know, no disrespect to August Alsina, but he's not on the level. Like, to me, Will and Jada are like royalty. To me, they're like black royalty. That's like that's like Jay-Z and Beyonce sitting at an interview and having to explain to America or the world why Beyonce thought it was a good idea to hook up with MGK. I would be like, huh? Like, that's what you like? You went from the god of rap, the god of the music mogul, god Titan, to Machine Gun Kelly? Like,
Rap
that's
Devil.
right.
By the way, that's not an endorsement. I'm not an MGK fan. I'm just saying that's what he's called himself.
That's what he does, and neither am I. I don't hate the guy. It's not even a knock towards him. It's just I'm showing levels, and to me, I don't think Will and Jada should have even gotten themselves, whether Will was in it or not. There should not be an issue to where Jada and Will in their 50s are talking about 25, 26-year-old August Alsina. I think it's embarrassment. That look on his face is embarrassment. It really is.
Real quick before we wrap up this story, I don't know if you caught this at the end where Will was like, "I'm going to get you back," and they kind of laughed
I heard about that. I heard about that.
And she was like, "Well, you've kind of already gotten me back." And he's kind of like, "Yeah, you're probably right." And then that set off a whole bunch of rumors. Not rumors, but like there's been rumors over the years that he's hooked up with co-stars like Margot Robbie, Eva Mendes. Like, so Twitter was just going nuts with that, being like, "Oh, now it hasn't confirmed it." Well, actually, there was this Jimmy Fallon clip of Margot Robbie on Fallon. They're playing some game where she had to answer a question. She pulled like a question out of a hat or something, and she read the question. She goes, "No," she goes, I can't." She goes, "I can't say this question." She goes, "I can give you the answer, but I can't tell you the question."
Yeah.
And Jimmy Fallon's like, "Whoa, what's the answer?" And she's like, "It's Will Smith." And he's like, "Oh, now I want to know what the question is." And looking back on it now, everyone's thinking like, was it like, "Oh, have you ever had an affair with a co-star, or have you ever hooked up with a married man, or something along those lines?" But imaginations went wild. Like, so I don't know your thoughts on now these rumors coming to light again about Will also doing the same thing, because you mentioned before that it's been rumored they've been freaks for a while, or at least in an open relationship.
Yeah. No. Will Smith is definitely going to exact his revenge. He is going to go hook up with Honey Boo Boo now. Because that's what they do to get back at each other. They hook up with the most lowest level people on the planet. Look, that's between those two. That really is. And us as consumers, or people that watch the product or are fans. Me and you both grew up on Will Smith. You, much like me, idolize him. He is the epitome of a black performer to me. A performer, period. But that man is everything that I think about myself. And he's one of the reasons I am this way. He's one of the reasons I'm a singer, a rapper, an actor, a stand-up comic, a writer. Like, he's a reason him and a few other people, like Childish Gambino, he's a big influence to me too. But when you're on that level and you've influenced that many people, I guess in the end, I guess you can kind of do whatever you want to do. And if that's what him and Will, if that's what him and Jada are about, then they have to accept the consequences of it coming out. And if for any reason this was an entanglement, an arranged entanglement, I personally think Will and Jada should be ashamed of themselves. Like, you could do so much better than that. Margot Robbie, fucking fantastic. Way to go. That's how you do it. If you're gonna do it, fucking Margot Robbie. If Jada went and had sex with Idris Elba, I would have been like, "You go, girl." But come on, August Alsina, like, bro, come on. That's like
him. I don't know.
He was famous a few years ago, but that's like It's almost like as if Jada went to the Fox Hills Mall and picked out the first nigga she saw. How's that for revenge, Will? Like, I don't know. Just unnecessary, and you could tell they're both embarrassed. So that's all I got to
Yeah.
say about that. Moving right along.
All right, moving right along. So more somber news. Also big news this past week was that the actress Naya Rivera, most famous for her role on Glee,
God damn, dude.
was missing for a while. Her son and her they rented a pontoon boat. The 4-year-old son was found. She couldn't be found. There was a big search looking for her. She was presumed dead. They eventually found her body, confirmed it was her. Naya Rivera has been a veteran in Hollywood ever since she was a child. She was on an episode of Fresh Prince, obviously Will Smith's show. I remember her from Family Matters playing Richie's girlfriend in a couple of episodes. Then she kind of acted, I think she was on Smart Guy. She acted here and there. And then her like really big role was as Santana on Glee. I never watched Glee, but I heard she was fantastic on it. Actually, when the Lea Michele story broke, like about a month ago, where she was like, "Hey, Black Lives Matter," and everyone's like, "Hey, you're mean to everyone." And Naya Rivera was someone, I'm not sure she spoke. I forget if she spoke out, but people mentioned it like, "Oh yeah, you weren't very nice to her." And I remember people bringing up that Naya Rivera did a song that Lea Michele did earlier, sort of within the show, like despite that character, and a lot of people were saying that she did a better job. So it's very sad that obviously it ended like this, especially since she was mother to a young child. They're saying that the investigators believe that she actually saved the son, that they were swimming, and I think the son even reported this too, that she used all her energy to get him back on the boat, but then didn't have enough energy to like save herself. I guess like a current or something came and took her. So it sadly reminded me of the Shad Gaspard incident where
I was just thinking that very matter of fact, when I heard this story, that was the first thing that came to my mind, like, wow, she kind of suffered the same fate as Shad.
But they both were their last acts are make sure their child's okay, which is commendable, and still sad that it had to happen. But your thoughts, I guess, on the situation? And
I don't know much about her. Her name has floated around Hollywood for some years, a number of years, like you said. How old was she when she passed? 30s?
She was 3. I think she was 33 years old.
Okay, so yeah, she was up there, but that's still, she's fairly young. She's basically like our generation, people in their 30s. So she was a 90s kid. So she's done a lot since then. Since you said she was on Family Matters. I think I remember, was it Family Matters? Yeah. I think I remember that episode. I actually remember her. She had to have been really young on that.
She was like a little kid.
Yeah, she's a child actor. So she's been around. So I've heard her name float around since her childhood days as an actress. It's tragic. I don't know much about her. I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to speak on the dead without having proper knowledge of how she, what type of person she was or her career, other than what the little things I know. I will say this though, because we hadn't started the show yet when the Shad Gaspard situation had happened. So it's good to touch on that because the story is very similar. And whenever I hear stories like this, like I heard with Shad, whenever I hear something to the degree of, or factual or whatever, something involving somebody swimming and they've gone adrift at sea or they can't be found, it's usually, as terrible as it might sound, it's usually the most common thing to think, yeah, these people are probably dead now. Because water is just something, it's dangerous. So anytime I hear anything about somebody getting lost at sea or in a river, I usually when they find them, they're probably going to be dead.
Yeah, unfortunately, my wife and I said the same thing. Like once we found that she was missing on the water, we hope that we're wrong, but like it's not like getting, I don't know, like lost something. I can't think of another parallel, but like getting lost in the water, like I guess there's always a chance you can get washed up somewhere, but like you said, the chances of that happening are slim to none, and more likely
they're very low. They're very low because water is a very dangerous element. in life. It's a necessity, and we need it. But what brings life also can take it. And water is one of those things. And listen, rest in peace to her. My condolences to her family. Since we didn't get to talk about him, my condolences to Chad's family and to what was his partner, JTG. I can imagine how that guy's feeling right now. I've seen a lot of stuff on. It's hard to go to JTG's page on the social media and not get choked up. You could tell he loved that dude. They weren't just tag team partners. They had a career together and a real brotherhood. So rest in peace to him. But as far as the Naya situation, that's terrible. And God bless her for being able to do that one last heroic act, just like Shad did, and make sure her son can now live on and memorialize his mother's memory. He can go on and tell the world. I mean, he probably won't remember, because at 4 you don't remember much. But as he gets older, he'll gain knowledge of what happened. He'll be told by family members, and he'll be able to pass on her legacy and be like, you know what, my mom was a hero, and I wasn't even aware of it, and now as an adult I am. So rest in peace to her.
I think part of her legacy also, I was reading up on it, is that, like, on the show, I didn't watch Glee, but she came out on the show as a lesbian and dated like one of her best friends. They were both like a lesbian interracial high school couple on TV, which, if it wasn't the first time it happened on network television, it was one of the first times it happened. So I do think, and obviously you don't want to look at like stuff like, when something like this happens, you don't want to be like, oh, well, the legacy is great. But like at the same time, like hopefully her legacy is going to be that also of like someone who like broke new ground and was like a trailblazer and was able to make people
for the LGBT community. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
That is definitely something they could, like I said, memorialize and pass on. That is a good legacy. And because that's a very, and even in this day and age with everything being so PC and open, that's still a very sensitive subject.
Yeah.
Coming out,
especially on Fox.
The most conservative fucking network and forum on the planet. So yeah, wow, kudos to her for having those set of balls.
Yeah.
So rest in peace to her, man.
Rest in peace.
Her son, I feel bad for that boy. Yeah, damn. Anyway,
all right. So there's
on to the next.
No great way to shift away from that, but we're gonna do so. Going on to the hip hop segment of the show.
Hip hop. It started in the park. Hip hop. It started in the park. Shout out to DJ Hollywood and Kool Herc. I said this one of the other episodes when we first talked about this. I am the reason. I am a result of those two men starting something that is amazing. And anybody that talks shit about hip hop can eat a dirty goat's bum while watching 90210 and eating popcorn and drinking booze.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there, but I'm just going to go to I was really hoping that you were going to say...
That was a mouthful.
I was hoping that you were going to say, like, oh, DJ Hollywood and Kool Herc, I am the reason that hip-hop is around.
It almost came out that way. I had to stop it. I was like...
Not those old fogies.
Not those houses.
Max Star. Yeah. Only me. It's like, hot take. All right.
Old fogey. You're such a fogey. Oh my God. That would have been horrible. I would have immediately got my hip hop card revoked if I had ever said some shit like that.
No, it would have been very disrespectful. But speaking of disrespectful, 50 Cent, who I love, is probably one of the most disrespectful people in the culture and the genre right now.
Nigga. My 50 impression.
That's not bad. You and I are both a fan of Versus. If for some reason you don't know what Versus is, during quarantine, I think it was Swiss Beats and Timberland came up with an idea.
They started it. Yeah, they were the first then.
To get two artists, normally competitive rivals in their R&B or hip hop genre, is always black music oriented, to sort of do a battle. Like where they'll play 20 of their biggest hits back to back. They'll intertwine. They'll go back and forth. during quarantine. Usually they'll be in separate places, but now they're starting to go in the same place because stuff opened up and now they're closing down. So who knows? It just got announced that the next versus battle is going to be DMX versus Snoop, which
I cannot
very
wait
excited about.
I tagged you in a post.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, I'm like, Vince would appreciate this.
Yeah,
This
I gave it a little heart.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did.
Reaction.
Yes, you did.
But prior to that announcement, they were trying to think. Everyone's like, what's going to be the next? They did Fabulous and Jada Kiss was the last one. They did, I think,
John
Teddy Riley and
Legend.
Babyface, John Legend and Alicia Keys. So they're like, what's going to be the next one? And for a while, I think people were just like trying to think of what rappers, and T.I. kind of informally challenged 50 Cent.
Yeah.
And then 50 was kind of very nonchalant, like, no, like, you're not on my level. Which then T.I. got a little upset and miffed about it and being like, oh, well, you weren't even my first choice. I wanted to go after Jay-Z. The reason I picked you is because I think it would be an easy win. Like, I have a much doper catalog than you. And then so 50 and T.I. have been sort of been going back and forth on social media. Good chance of doing it to build up a possible versus battle. Although for some reason I don't think 50 really is interested in doing it. And also, like, some personal things kind of came out. 50 showed this old Crime Stoppers video of T.I. This commercial. I don't know. Did you see the video?
No, but I heard about it. Oh God.
Yeah, it's like a 30-second
50,
TV
50
commercial.
He is the most petty. It's hilarious, but he's the pettiest motherfucker on the. He will dig up so much shit on you.
You will never hear me say a bad word about 50 Cent publicly.
Oh my God.
Because at some point it will come around and bite me in the ass. Even if I wholeheartedly disagree with what he's saying or doing, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Like,
and how do you think I feel, Vince? I'm a rapper. You're not even a rapper. So if I make it big in this business, Jesus Christ.
But hypothetically speaking, what is your take on a T.I. versus 50 versus battle? Like, do you think T.I. has a doper catalog? Do you think because like it's very strange, like sometimes it doesn't matter if you're a better artist, it depends on like the songs. So your thoughts on this?
This is a tough one because I am a fan of both. If I had to choose, I would choose T.I. But the only reason I choose T.I. is because to me he's a better rapper. Lyrically, he's a little bit better than 50. And I could say that as a lyricist myself, and I can always tell when a rapper lyrically is more enhanced than another rapper. I mean, personally, I think I could rap better than 50 Cent. He's not terrible at all, but he's you know, he's a bit on he could be a bit on the simple side. He's a New York street gangster rapper. Like he's not known for his witty punchlines or his metaphors. I've never you know. He's said some very clever things. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely better than Ja Rule, in my opinion. I would sooner listen to a 50. You know, I'm more inclined to hear. I have in my life since I've been a rapper and a hip hop head. I have heard more better lines from 50 than Ja Rule. But I think T.I. is better than both of them lyrically. T.I. is just he's got the swagger. His voice. T.I.'s got a really good rap voice too. His voice is good for rap. He's very southern, and you can hear it. You know, it's the king, shouty. You know, when he talks like that, and it's hilarious when he gets on his you know, because he went to jail and got really book smart, which was good. But when he gets into
what's that word he always says? His podcast is named after it. It's
expeditiously.
Yes.
You know, he has a tendency to be like, well, speaking from a logical Presbyterian standpoint, I will expeditiously expite my comments further henceforth. Like T.I. stop.
Yeah.
that was the exact epitome of a T.I. sentence in life.
He check out the big brain on this guy.
Yeah, man. Check out the big brain on bread. You know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I thought of Samuel Jackson when you did that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of like the bump set. For you to spike.
Had to throw the Pulp Fiction reference in there.
I agree that T.I. is probably better lyrically, or at least in the songs is shown to be more creative lyrically than 50 Cent. I would still pick 50 to win the battle.
Oh.
Personal preference. I think I just like 50's. I mean, I love T.I., but I really love 50 Cent, especially his early stuff. And in these versus battles, you can go all over the place. Like 50 could play all 20, 22 tracks of Get Rich or Die Trying and probably win any versus battle.
Hey, that's a classic album, dude.
He
Boy,
could also
we'll talk about that in a minute.
he can also do his mixtape stuff. Like everyone forgets that like 50 kind of revolutionized the mixtape game and got big when he was blacklisted. He sort of made himself relevant again through mixtapes, and some of his best work is on those early mixtapes. Also, stuff that he like did guest spots on. He claimed that he wrote the majority of Game's documentary debut album, so he could probably put a lot of that stuff on there and be like, "Well, technically, I did this too," so throw that in there. I mean, T.I., I think I'm forgetting a lot of, not forgetting because he's like forgettable, but I think there's a lot of songs that I'm sure he would play and I'd be like, oh, right, I forgot about this one. He's also got a bunch of great features too. 50 as a lyricist, you're right, I don't think he challenges himself that much, but he doesn't have to. Like, he just kind of tells these incredible stories, paints these beautiful pictures.
He's the New York Tupac. He's a New York Tupac, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like what he says, even if they're not like, he will say clever and witty stuff from time to time, but a lot of his most memorable, iconic lines aren't witty. They're just like, they're authentic. They're like, oh, I felt that. It's like there was, or they are very relatable, even if it has nothing to do with like being shot. It has to do with like overcoming something. They both have star qualities. If I remember 50, I think really rides his star quality to success.
Yeah, no, 50 was huge. 50 was, I will say 50 at his peak was higher than T.I. at his peak. I will say that.
Yeah.
T.I. is a huge star, but 50 was way more global than T.I. T.I. had to become global. 50 Cent was global out the gate.
Yeah.
Like his first major album. Like it took T.I. about one or two albums before he became an international phenomenon. The mixtape set it off. By the time he also had a different type of backing. Let's keep in mind he had an Eminem, Dr. Dre, Interscope backing. T.I. didn't have that. T.I. had Hustle. He has Hustle. What's his label? Well,
Grand
his
Hustle.
thing is he's got Grand Hustle, and then he had Atlantic backing him up. He didn't have as big of a backing too, so you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I do think T.I.'s a better lyricist. I do like his songs a little bit more than 50. In a battle, I would have to go with T.I. I mean, you go with 50, I go with T.I. And but as far as star quality, I have to give that to me, Max Star. That's who you give it to. Fuck both them. Fuck them both. Listen to my shit. Put me in a versus battle with somebody and watch me lose because they're more famous than me. I'm just saying. No, but it's more than likely it's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, it's going to be something that's milked and milked and milked. And I think what I think it's going to take, as far as for 50, it's going to take a really big, huge buzz behind it, because 50 is for the theatrics, as you know. It's going to take this big buzz around it and probably a really big check. And then I think 50 will be like, okay, man, let's do this, babe. We do this battle, we dream of vitamin water, nigga. Should we talk a little bit? Do we have time to talk about a little bit of their catalog?
Yeah, let's talk about their catalogs, but also like just like
other rappers.
If we are like starting the new thing, so I'm trying to think. Obviously, I think 50's.
Well, what's your favorite? You always usually ask me stuff. Let me start off. Let's start off with you. Okay. What's your favorite? It was a two-parter. What's your favorite 50 song? And your favorite 50 Cent album? You might have already answered that because you did say Get Rich or Die Trying. But he's had 4 or 5 other albums after that, so you might
I'll say Get Rich or Die Trying. Get Rich or Die Trying is my favorite 50 album. It's actually probably, and it obviously changes from time to time, but I would say it's probably one of my top 5 albums of all time, like personal favorites. Get Rich or Die Trying. In terms of favorite 50 song,
or it doesn't have to be your number one, but I mean, you can even name a couple. I don't like because I hate when people ask me that too. It's hard for me to narrow one thing down that's really good. So, what's your favorite? Plural songs. Maybe that's easier.
I think I always have a soft spot for If I Can't.
If I
Off
can't
Get Rich.
do it, homie, it
It
can't be
can't
done.
be done.
I'm a that champagne bottle pop. Yeah, that's the jam.
Yeah, I mean the Dre production on that was incredible. It
Bum
also used to
bum
be
bum 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 bum. That piano, dude. Oh,
yeah.
don't get me started.
I'm a huge Baltimore Ravens fan. Grew up in Maryland, and they used to play that at M&T Bank like all the time.
Oh,
And
nice.
so I always felt like whenever I would hear that there, like it always like the Nelly "Hot in Here" song definitely reminds me of Ray Lewis coming out and dancing. And If I Can't reminds me of like the Ravens like trying to hold it on like 3rd and 4 or something like that. So like nostalgic wise, I'll probably have to go with that song.
Oh,
But then
okay.
there'll always be a different random 50 song that's like, oh, this is underrated. Like either a mixtape song. Some songs he like came out with like near the end of like the 2000s that like never made it on a big album, just kind of like him freestyling. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
actually really good. But what about you? What are your favorite 50 albums/songs?
Uh, Get Rich or Die Trying was a classic. It really was. I remember owning that. As far as body of work, I mean, The Massacre was good too. That
Yeah.
was his big. That was actually his biggest album sales wise.
Yeah, 1.4 million
The first
copies,
week,
and it was
yeah,
a short week too, as Jada Kiss like
yeah.
pointed out in his diss track.
The Checkmate diss track, yes,
That was a
one of
good
my
track.
favorite. One of my favorite diss tracks. You should just stick to selling coals and sneakers, cause out of your whole camp, your flow's the weakest. Oh man,
What
Jada
was
got
that
him on
line he
that.
also had? Is like something about a predicate, king of New York, but you lived in
He
Connecticut.
lived in Connecticut.
Yeah, he
He
had
says a
so many
line.
good lines.
He has a line where he says, "This is a true fact. Since when has it been cool to get shot at and not shoot back?"
Yeah,
He's referring to him getting shot 9 times. Like, why
yeah.
you didn't shoot back, motherfucker? Uh,
Because he
I
was
really
unconscious. He
liked.
was almost dead.
Right, yeah, I know, but made for a great
It really did.
diss lyric. Damn, I kind of see that's tough because I thought the massacre was a good body of work. So this is what I'll say: Get Rich or Die Trying was a better body of work, and the massacre was a bigger album. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
That had a good body of work. One of my favorite songs. God, I again tough. So I'm gonna name a couple. I um I really liked I Get Money. That was a dope track. That
Oh
beat,
yeah.
that production, whoever I think I don't know who produced that. It might have been his DJ. Not yeah, Who Kid. I think Who Kid might have
Okay.
produced that. I think it was Who Kid. But that beat, his flow was okay, but that beat and that I Get Money sample from
Yeah.
they said I get money, I get
Milk.
that's yeah, dude.
Top
Boom,
billing.
boom, 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 boom. Yeah, top
Milk
billing,
is chilling.
chilling,
What more
chilling.
can I
What
say? Top
top bill?
billing.
So that sample they got from Milk was dope. That's probably I'll say that. I liked some of his mixtape shit before he even got. Well, my favorite. I'm trying to think. My favorite track on Get Rich or Die Trying is probably. I did like. I know you like my style. You like
Mm.
Cowboy with him and Tony Ayo. That was a pretty good one, man. Some of his mixtape shit was dope too. I liked his Nobody Likes Me. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, Life on the Line. Yeah,
The
yeah.
Live Song, the line, which they when they released Get Right, Rich or Die Trying, they pulled that off his mixtape and put that as a bonus track for Get
Yeah.
Rich or Die Trying, and I had that version. Even the NYPD, LAPD,
Oh yeah.
NYPD,
You
use a
don't like
motherfucking
me.
snitch, huh? Yeah, that's a good song too. Yeah, but
Oh, sorry. Real quick, in terms of mixtape stuff, another one that I remember is one of my favorites. Do you remember the song? This was De La Soul. It was Rock Cocaine Flow. It featured MF Doom. The album came out in 2004. I think Jake One produced it. It's got like this awesome sample where it sounds like
I
almost
think
like
yeah,
a choir
yeah,
in the
yeah,
background.
yeah.
And 50 Unit did a mixtape song off that. And I think it was called Put a Hole in Your Back. It's like, and 50 is like singing on it. It's like, ah, da, 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 I put a hole in your back. And then like the beat slows down and they kind of, that's also like one of my favorites. Because I love that song in general. So whenever I hear it, Busta Rhymes just freestyled over it. And then when I heard 50 like rap over, I'm like, this is good. Because he was also singing it. Like he made it like a different song. Like he kind of made his own melody to it. And I was like, wow, like first, no one was doing that with freestyle, like rapping over someone else's beat. They're just like, oh, let me just rap over it and then maybe do their hook. And he like did a whole different thing with it.
Yeah, and that's what blew G Unit up in New York. And then after, once it caught fire all over New York, that's when Eminem and Dre, caught wind of it, and then that's when they gave him his deal, dude. But it was those mixtapes that blew him and G Unit up.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, and it was him flowing over other beats. What do you think? Now moving on to T.I. What is your favorite T.I. song or songs and favorite album? This is a lot easier for me because I'm a bigger T.I. fan.
It's not that easy. It's not that easy for me. It'd probably be unfair for me to pick a favorite album because I don't think I know collectively. Like I know more of his songs than I do like his bodies of work collectively. So I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, I don't know which songs are on which albums. I don't know why. This isn't like his best song at all, but I really enjoyed. I'm blanking on the name. It was a song he did with Wyclef.
Oh boy, you know what it is.
Yeah. The boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom.
Dope song.
It sounded clearly Wyclef produced it. Like it sounded just like Wyclef.
That guitar, yeah. He's
also. I'll admit, I wasn't really a big. I could recognize that lyrically he was very good, but I just wasn't into his music. And it wasn't until, weirdly enough, the Justin Timberlake song "My Love," and it was weird because I wasn't a big Justin Timberlake fan to begin with. But that song, both of them together, I was like, I really like the both of them. And his verse, he killed that verse.
Yeah, that's a good verse.
So even though it's not his song, like I remember that was the verse. So I'm like, I can't ignore him anymore. Like this guy's incredible.
No, man. For me, T.I., I remember when T.I. first came out when he did "I'm Serious." And I'm going to be honest, because this was late 90s, early 2000s, because I was very much in my backpack lyricist phase, I really, 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 and this might sound horrible, I obviously have a different outlook because I'm older, but I'm talking about the teenager me. I scoffed at any Southern music. To me, that just was not lyrical rap to me back then. Again, it was just, if you were Eminem or Redman or a lot of rappers out of New York, I was very biased. So when he first came out, I was just like, another crunk. I was like, another Southern. That's how I felt about Ludacris. And Ludacris is now in my top 3. So think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
But real quick, I will say, I thought T.I. was just another Southern. He caught my attention by the time he got to his third album was when I was like, okay, this dude is lyrically inclined. His first album was "I'm Serious." Then he did trap music, which is what kind of put him on the map. And then he did an album called Urban. Oh God, I'm blanking out.
Was it Urban Legend?
Urban Legend, excuse me. He did an album called Urban Legend, and I own that album. And I was like, okay, it was that album that made me a fan. And that was the album that had "Bring 'Em Out, Bring 'Em Out, Bring 'Em Out" on it, and it had it had all the hits on there. But it was his hits that did it. But it was also because he had that song "Rubber Band Man." Band Man, wow, that was off of
Taliban.
That was off of trap music, the album before, but it was Urban Legend that did it. I would say from Urban Legend all the way till Paper Trail. Like my 3 favorite T.I. albums is Urban Legend, Paper Trail, and King. T.I. versus T.I.P. was okay. But for all the viewers, all you, check out those 3 albums. Incredible production, incredible lyrics. As far as my favorite song, I really liked, oh God, there's too many. I like the song he did with the Swing Your Rag song. All right, okay, I don't dance. Now this way, I thought it's a song Swiss Beats produced that was off of Paper Trail. I loved "Live Your Life" with him and Rihanna. That is a great fucking song.
That was Just Blaze.
Just Blaze.
That was a different type of style of him production wise as well.
Oh my God, that's one of Just Blaze is an amazing producer, but that's one of his best beats ever. That was amazing production. The sample, the Indian chanting sample, it was great. Or it was like an Arabic chant from a song that he sampled. But yeah, Ti's had a good body of work. There's been a couple great songs, but in my opinion, to wrap this up, I have to go with Ti. You know, and there's other, and we're not even touching on other bunch of dope early. Listen, early 2000s. Just to sum that up, was the last real best part of music period for me, but definitely hip hop. I'm sorry.
We're gonna have to find a segment or like a full episode to like really delve into that.
Because I'm to be honest, from if we're just talking about strictly the 2000s, 2000 to 2005 was a really good gap of years. Anything after 2005 is like, eh. Unless it's Max Star. Anything post 2005 Max Star is amazing, and before, because I've been recording since 2002. So
wow.
Yeah, I've got an 18-year career, as I so graciously said on my other friend's show, Davion. So we got to bring him on the show soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, man.
Once we figure out how to get guests on here.
It's hard for us to even talk,
yeah.
let alone a third person. We can't even film ourselves yet. So.
Yeah, we're like, wait, I'm gonna say, where do you go? There you go. All right.
We'll figure it out. But all right. So what do we got going next, my friend?
Well, now it is time for the wrasslin segment.
Oh. You know, Vince, you know why I like this segment. I shouldn't have to explain it to you, but I know somebody that can. Here we go. Let's go. It's the wrestling segment.
Yeah.
With Max and Vince. I won't talk about the sex tape because Max will get pissed. So I won't talk about that. I'll just talk about wrestling.
Yes.
But you might have to wait, because guess what? We're going to talk about the sex tape.
Why would you do that?
We're talking about the sex tape. The sex tape. We're going to talk about the sex tape.
You suck.
With Sean Woman in China. Sean Woman in China. There's a scene where he's inside her vagina that rhymes with China. It's the wrestling segment. Yay, it's so great. That's so great. You know, Vince.
Max, you good, but you ain't really great.
You know, a girl said that on one of my songs.
I know.
And I appreciate that reference, but I beg to differ. I'm amazing. You know, Vince, when I think about the joy that all over the years sex tapes have brought me, there's only one that comes to mind that does it for me. And of course, that's One Night in China, baby. One Night in China. One Night in China.
There's no bearing on anything relevant nowadays.
One night in China. One night in China. He was in her vagina.
I have to reconsider a lot of choices I've made in my life that have led me to this.
Hey, Vince, you know you want to see that sex tape because it was great. And he was inside her vagina. Woo! All right. I don't know about you, but I'm invigorated now.
Well, congratulations. No, we just blew by the 10 minutes. We're done. The show's done.
God, it must hurt to be a hater. Let's keep it going, baby. Let's keep it going, baby. One Night in China, baby. Ow! So
one of the big things that happened this past week in wrestling was NXT, Great American Bash. There was...
I already know what you're about to say, and I'm already excited.
Title match.
Talk to him, Vince.
Between Limitless Keith Lee, the North American champion,
Ow!
and the NXT champion, the longest reigning NXT champion of all time,
Adam Cole,
baby.
Yeah.
So these guys are two of the most talented wrestlers in the world, let alone
Facts.
The WWE, let alone NXT.
Facts.
So they put on an incredible match. Kicked out of their finishers. It was nuts. Even with like no crowd. I mean, obviously you have like the other wrestlers there to watch, but there was no big crowd that would probably deserve to have.
Oh,
But it
definitely.
ended up with Keith Lee winning it.
Going
So he's
over.
now the North American champion and the NXT champion. He's the first black NXT champion since Big E
Yeah,
Langston
that's
held the
right.
title back in the day when he was doing the 5 gimmick. And prior to this
And
match,
to be honest,
WWE,
that was still, it was NXT, but it was like kind of the last days of FCW, kind of.
yeah,
It wasn't even a full. It was like they were like in the gray area between FCW and
it was
NXT
nowhere near
with
what
Big E.
NXT is now. Like NXT
Exactly.
is a
Yeah.
much bigger product now. And so prior to this incredible match, WWE had their show The Bump, and they were interviewing Keith Lee, and I love Adam Cole. He was the right guy to be champion. Like, hook your wagon to his star anytime, you'll be fine. But he held it for over a year. If you have to give it to someone else, Keith Lee, like, I can't think of anyone better than Keith Lee. He's
Yeah.
just like,
Yep.
he's a big guy, but he's
Mobster.
so intelligent, and he's charismatic, and he's like the perfect face, someone that you want to go out and promote your product. So they're interviewing him, and he's such a humble guy, but he's also very confident in himself. And they brought on Mark Henry as a surprise guest to talk to him. And they were talking about how they talked before, and Mark Henry's always been very supportive of him, and like revved him up, like, hey, don't want to put any pressure on you, but I think you're the next guy. Like, you're the guy to carry this company. You could be on the main roster. You could main event at WrestleMania, and you could also be the savior of big men in wrestling. Because even though Keith Lee isn't that tall, he's probably like an inch taller than you. He's not fat. He's just like big. He's like over 300 pounds.
He's a thickums. He's a thickums. Yeah. He's a big boy.
He carries it well. He's very athletic. And so Mark Henry, also someone who's not like 7 feet tall, but also a big guy, was looking at him being like, oh, I can see you being the next big star, but also reviving big man wrestling and sort of revolutionizing it. Because throughout the years, we look at Adam Cole, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, smaller guys, the workhorses get it done. And I think there's always should be a place for that in wrestling. But the lost art of big man wrestling has kind of gone to the wayside. But because now Keith Lee is so athletic, he can keep up with these smaller guys too, but also be big enough to contend with the bigger giants and the bigger brutes like Brock Lesnar or Braun Strowman. He's almost like a LeBron, where he can just play any position needed of him.
No, absolutely. I agree. What a talent. He's got a great look. He's a big boy. He's a big old hoss, as they say in the South. He's a hoss. It's funny. Much like you were saying, wrestling in the 80s and 90s was a big man sport. It was a big man's game. It was a big man's house. And people were getting sick of that, and they were like, well, let the littler guys like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and then it went to the Stone Colds, who aren't that big, or the even stepping even further in time, the Daniel Bryans, the CM Punks, the Adam Coles. People were just thriving for that. They got what they want. Now it's like, now we're reverting back to the way people were thinking about smaller guys. Now they're like, okay, we want big men back. It's just funny how that happens, man, with time. Keith Lee is I saw the match. It was a good match. I didn't watch it all the way through, but it was some great highlights I was watching. And those two had a I would say a 5-star match. That was definitely a 5-star match. Those two had a lot of near falls, a lot of finisher kickouts. The finish, the actual finish of the match was good. And Keith Lee deserves it, man. Listen, he put on a stellar performance at the Survivor Series. I think he did. Here's the thing. So he was in the Royal Rumble this year before COVID got bad, and he came in there and everybody was popping for him. Everybody popped for him. They were like, "Oh, Keith Lee," and they kind of, from what I remember, they kind of fed him to Brock Lesnar, which annoyed me.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he did put up a fight though, and it's funny because this was when Brock Lesnar was just throwing everybody out of the ring, and everybody was like, "Oh, Brock Lesnar put on this great performance," which he did, whatever. So when Keith Lee came out, you could see Brock Lesnar mouthing. The camera picks him up mouthing, "Wow, you're a big boy."
Yeah.
And he's like, and you could tell it was out of kayfabe. That wasn't Brock Lesnar, the character, saying that. I think he probably was familiar with Keith Lee, but probably, to be honest, that was probably the first time he ever saw Keith Lee in person.
It's
Because
a
that's wrestling.
possibility, yeah.
That's wrestling. So he probably told he mouths, "You're a big boy," and he is, and he's not incredibly tall. He's probably about 6'2", 6'1", 6'2". But he put on also a stellar performance at the Survivor Series last year. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was down to him and Roman, and he gave Roman a run for his money to the point that at the end of the match, Roman went over, of course. They weren't about to have the NXT guy go over their premier star, Roman. But he shook his hand at the end, and it made for a good moment. He put on a really good performance in that Survivor Series match. And when I tell you the crowd was far from divided, it was a pretty Keith Lee crowd when it was down to him and Roman. It was a Keith Lee crowd. They wanted him to go over Roman so bad. And at that point, Roman was kind of back over again because, the leukemia scare, and then he had been back for a few months. They kept him out of the main title picture. So people were back kind of on Roman's side again. So it wasn't a "we hate Roman," type heat. It was just, this guy looks great. He's really good.
Yeah, they love Keith Lee.
So because you can always tell the difference when it's like true Roman heat, and then when it's like, okay, we fuck with Roman right now, but we really like this guy.
Yeah,
and that's what it was. It
funny.
wasn't a Roman.
Jim Cornette actually recently was, when reviewing the match, and Jim Cornette has something bad to say about everyone. But Jim
Cornette hates himself.
But he was saying about Keith Lee that he's never seen someone look so dominant in terms of like the moves look so powerful.
Oh yeah.
But that all he can tell because
that stick down powerbomb he does is incredible.
But he's saying that also because Cornette has like been in the business for so long, he can tell when he's laying someone down completely flat or when he's landing flat. He's saying like he might be like one of the safest workers like I've ever seen in terms of like, so he's doing all these moves that look incredibly powerful, but secretly both of them are super safe. Like that's like that guy that you got longevity, like that with the popularity and like add everything together. And like, I don't see how this guy doesn't become a big time player for years to come.
And I agree. But sadly, much like Vince has done in the past, it just seems like whenever somebody who gets over in NXT jumps to that main roster, Vince just buries the fuck out of them. They don't have that gold anymore to him, and it's just a known fact. And I pray he doesn't. But Keith Lee might be amongst the soldiers that have fallen to what is Vince McMahon's main roster. He might get up there, and Vince might be like, on second thought, he's doing it now with Shayna Baszler. Rumors are and reports. I know she was on Raw the other day, but the rumors and reports are he's pretty much given up on her. He's just not interested. It was terrible what he did to EC3. That guy was so over in NXT. He got to that main roster and they buried.
He was an extra. They just like put him in the background.
Oh my God, it was horrible what they did to EC3. Apparently they got rid of him. But if I was EC3, I'd be like, thank you for granting me my release. Because you sons of bitches were horrible to me. Good riddance. And numerous other people that have, there's been a few. Bayley made it from NXT. She blew up. Sasha, she blew up Charlotte. Charlotte, of course. There was no doubt. I mean, for anybody that thought that Charlotte wasn't going to make it being Ric Flair's daughter, they are idiots. Charlotte was that's nepotism at its best. Charlotte was destined for greatness from the beginning. And she's a great worker, don't get me wrong. She has a great look. And Vince creams himself still to this day over blondes. So whatever, that's Vince. Big men and blondes. That's the B&B of Vince McMahon. Big men and blondes. That's what he creams his pants over every night, even at 75 years old. So listen, more power to Keith Lee. I'm proud of him. New NXT champion, North American NXT champ. He's got the double titles. He'll have to drop that North American title before he drops that NXT title. And then I see, I mean, not right now we got COVID, so things are kind of bad, but I would probably, now that he's the NXT champion, I would say probably by the end of this year, top of 2021, he'll be on the main roster. And I really hope they don't do dirty by him. That's it, you know?
Just hoping he gets a chance to become the savior of the big men, as Mark Henry prophesies. Speaking of big men, I guess we could just sort of cue our way into the history of big men. Like
big man wrestlers.
If Keith Lee is going to be the savior of big man wrestling, and he's sort of the evolution of big man wrestling, we have to look at the big men that have come before him.
That paved the way. Yes, indeed. Well, the first name that comes to my mind, if we're starting real old school, I mean, we would obviously start with the King Kong Bundys. We would start with Andre the Giant, of course.
Oh yeah, he's probably one of the more iconic household names. Men. Period.
He was really the first big men celebrity wrestler, like as far as being a big marquee name. I don't think there was anybody really before him. There was a lot of.
He was a star before Hogan was. Like,
oh yeah,
because he was such an attraction. Like people came from all over to see Andre the Giant.
Yeah. So you got to talk about Andre, number one, and then after that, like the King Kong Bundys, Big John Studd was another one. He was a big boy, and then when you kind of get into the '90s, you know, you talk about Earthquake, Typhoon, you talk about Bam Bam Bigelow, who by the way, rest in peace. Bam Bam Bigelow was one of the most he was much like Keith Lee. He was one of the most athletic big men. People don't give Bam Bam Bigelow the credit they should. I remember watching Bam Bam during the New Generation era when I was a kid, and he could go. And even it's been put on record from the Clique. You know, when the Clique was burying everybody, you know, Vince would have, you know, Shawn Waltman, Shawn Michaels, Shawn Waltman, Hunter, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. The five of them would sit down with Vince because they were the Clique and they had that power. And Vince would ask the Clique, like, well, who should we, you know, not in these words, but basically like who should we bury and who we shouldn't bury. And the Clique being the Clique and Shawn Michaels being Shawn Michaels, they would bury a lot of wrestlers and say, we don't want to work with them. But apparently one of the names they were big about putting over was Bam Bam Bigelow. And if you look at his work, he could go. You know, he would do that. He would hit that moonsault. He would bounce around. He would bump good. He would sell. So big ups to Bam Bam Bigelow. I would definitely put him as one of my favorite big man wrestlers. And then let's talk about the not so good guys that are kind of an embarrassment. Bastion Booger. What the fuck did he ever do? I've never heard anybody say, wow, I really miss Bastion Booger. I don't even think Bastion Booger misses Bastion Booger. So let's talk about shitty guys like that. Who else was Brodus Clay? I actually used to know that guy. He used to be a bouncer at it was a saddle ranch at City Walk. I used to go there back in the day, and he was a bouncer. This was like 15 years ago. This is before he even touched the WWE. And he was such a hater. I don't want to get it. That's another Max Star story. You know, I told you I've got 150 stories. Yes, I used to know Brodus Clay, and he was an asshole. He not a very good big man wrestler. He was a monster, but I mean, I don't know. What are some other shitty, not so great?
Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, God, El Gigante. Who the Undertaker did not want to work with, by the way.
Yeah, Great Khali doesn't really get a lot of respect.
No.
You brought up Undertaker. He's not like big, but like in terms of like, he's considered to be a big wrestler because like if you're like once you hit 7 feet or 6'11", they bill you a 7 foot. Like guys like him, Kane,
Kevin Nash.
Big Show. I actually think is one of my favorite big man wrestlers.
Good worker. Yeah.
I remember like when he first came into WWF from WCW. He was probably doing this in WCW at the same time too, but I didn't really take notice. But I remember he like had a match on SmackDown against The Rock. He was doing like nip ups from the ground
and drop kicks.
Drop kicks. Sometimes he'd go off the top rope. Like he was doing crazy, not like 450 splashes or anything like that.
High fly and stuff, yeah.
But for a big man, he was doing like crazy stuff, and I'm pretty sure then they were like, "Hey, like don't do this anymore. Like you're a big man.
Yeah.
be a big man.
Well,
So
that was his issue. He says it in the podcast he did with Stone Cold. He says his entire career people would just tell him something that annoyed the fuck out of him, and everything he heard in every territory he was at, from WCW to WWE, they would always say, "You're a giant. You got to work as a giant. You're a giant." And he was like, "I don't know what that means."
yeah.
So he had to learn. He had to learn. But he said that was annoying. He hated people telling him that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Keith Lee, and granted Keith Lee does have a lot of power moves in his repertoire, but I'm hoping that, I'm sure as he gets older also, he's going to have to like tone down the somersaults out of the ring, or, like the second rope moonsault. But I hope that they don't take that away from him immediately. I hope they don't make him just a primarily power wrestler, because a lot of his appeal is the fact that he can do it all.
No, absolutely. And more power to that brother. I wish him the best. There's like pictures and memes and articles of him when he was just an extra getting tossed around by DX back in like 09 or something like that. And they were just saying how he's come a long way. And literally there's like I don't know if you've seen it. There's a clip of him. He's like wearing all black, and he was like literally an extra. And you see Triple H about to throw him somewhere, and they're like, look what he's progressed to. Like he's the NXT champ, and hopefully one day, I really would love to see him hold that Universal and or WWE Heavyweight Championship. I really hope. I hope he can be, after Kofi, he could be the next, full on African American. I mean, I hope it'd be great if there's a few before then. Like even Bobby Lashley's never held the title.
Yeah, Lashley I think would be good.
He would be great. I would love to see. I'm not a big Lashley fan. I don't think he's the best wrestler, but he looks great. He can move and he can go. And I wouldn't mind seeing him as a champ. I think he'd make for a good heel champ. Because as a babyface, it was Bobby Lashley is very corny to me. He's a better heel. They tried the babyface thing with him, and it was just. There's an awful segment when he first came back with him talking about his family, and they were trying to do this. Yeah. They were trying to do this feel-good blue chipper babyface. I love my sister and my family, and I do it for them. And it was awful. It was terrible. I'm sorry. No disrespect to his family, but just the blue face chipper, blue babyface shit. It was just horrible. So
yeah, he's such a freak of nature that like he has to be a monster heel to be
a monster. Effective. And here's the thing. I think his first one with the title should be Keith Lee as this monster heel. He should be they should bill him as the Black Brock Lesnar, where he's just tearing through people, like they did with Mark Henry. They did it with the Hall of Pain. Do the same thing with Keith Lee. Give him a Hall of Pain run where he's just plowing through people, And I'm looking forward to it. So I just hope he doesn't get buried. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah, good for Keith Lee. I applaud you, young man. I applaud you.
Bask in his glory. Did you know I did not realize he raps his own theme song. I did not know that.
Oh, I didn't know that either. I did not know that. Well, good for him. There you go. Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
So with that being said.
Yeah, let's before we wrap up the whole show, you've given your take on Keith Lee and Big Men. I've given my take. But there is one, dare I say, more important take we need to hear, and it comes from a good friend of the show,
a wonderful friend of the show, and her opinion is very, very important to us. Let me go get her. Hey, hi, hey, Whoopi. Oh, hey, hi. Oh my God, it's so hot in here. I know. I don't have an air conditioner, and thank you for reminding me. How broke I am and how rich you are, Whoopi. Hey, sit right here. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, God, let me get comfortable. Oh God. Hey,
Whoopi. How's it going?
Hey, it's my handsome little fella. How are you?
Very good.
God,
we're very happy to see you again.
Oh, my God. Every time I come on the show, I get goosebumps. For multiple reasons. First, because of your handsome face. Second, because I just love what you guys are doing. Yeah. I really like what you guys are doing. And, I love wrestling. And that's why I'm here to talk about wrestling. So what are we talking about today? What was it again?
So we were talking about Keith Lee winning the NXT title and being North American champ as well, and how Mark Henry said that he may be the savior of big men in wrestling.
Oh wow, and Mark Henry's right. I think he really could be. I love his work. His work in the ring reminds me of when I did The Color Purple. Oh, it was so great. Just magical. When I was on that set with Steven Spielberg and Danny Glover. Oh, it was so great. And, when Keith Lee is in the ring with Adam Cole, it's just like that scene in The Color Purple with me and Danny Glover. Yeah, it's magic. I really love it. And I think about all the accomplishments this young man's going to do. I want to bring him on The View, Vince. I want to bring him on The View.
I think he'd be a great guest on The View. I think he's very charismatic no matter where he goes. I think he's just very fun and can really promote himself and the brand. And I think get along with you and the rest of the ladies on The View.
Oh, God, that'd be great. Yeah, I would really. And then you guys could come too, you and Laren. That's great. I heard him say it earlier, but I really loved Bam Bam Bigelow. Yeah. You know what Bam Bam Bigelow's greatest accomplishment was, besides being in the ring? He was in the movie Major Payne with Damon Wayans, remember? He was the biker.
He was, yeah.
He got his ass kicked by Damon Wayans. That was Academy Award. Speaking of Academy Awards, I won an Academy Award for Ghost. Remember when I did Ghost, Vince?
You were so good in Ghost. You're
you're so cute. Oh my God, stop! I already like you. Now you want me to? I'm gonna want to marry you. I'm gonna have to tell your wife to move over. There's gonna be a third party in this, my friend. Oh God! But listen, Ghost was amazing, and that's how I think about Bam Bam Bigelow, and that's what I think about Keith Lee. And there were some awful guys like, what was the guy, El Gigante, the big guy, because, oh God, word around town was The Undertaker didn't even want to work with him. He worked with him in WCW, and he was like, no, it's not great. You know what was great, Vince? When I did Burglar, that was great. That was good stuff. And The Color Purple, and even Eddie. That was a stellar performance. I got to meet so many people. But back to the wrestlers. Even Vader. You guys didn't talk about Big Van Vader.
Yeah, I thought about Vader. We didn't get a chance to talk about him. He's great too.
Oh, he's great. Hey, they said he was a stiff, hard-hitting guy. He used to potato a lot of guys. Yeah.
But Mick Foley said he was also very nice and kind of a sweetheart as well.
They said he was a big teddy. But Jim Cornette, my good friend Jim, has gone on record with saying he was a big teddy bear. Yeah, and if he was around, I'd bring him on The View. But I can't. But I could bring you guys on The View. You and your handsome face.
Thank you.
Listen, but enough about me and your handsome face. I got to get going. I'm sure you could guess who I got a date with tonight, Vince.
Is it the still very married Ted Danson?
Yeah. Shh, don't tell his wife. Oh, God.
We haven't told anyone yet.
Oh, God. Oh, I told Laren don't say anything either. Hey, I really like what you and Laren got going. You guys are best of friends, and I like that. I think you guys are great. You got the vanilla. He's got the chocolate. You're not like Ted Danson. You're not going to ever do blackface. Yeah. Because you know better. Even though that was my idea, Vince. Oh, God, I know. But listen, while you're at it, I don't know if you've got it, but go get Burglar and Jumpin' Jack Flash on Blu-ray or somewhere on the internet. You can see it. And then watch The Color Purple. And then Ghost. Matter of fact, Ted has got my Academy Award trophy in his car. I left it at his place. 25 years ago. Oh, God. But hey, I'm going to get out of here. Hey, big up to Keith Lee. I think you're doing a great job. I do. Hey, Whoopi, signing out. See you soon, Vince.
Thank you very much. Whoopi Goldberg, everyone.
You make sure you take care of that Laren. He's a good guy. You take care of him.
He's one of the best.
Thank you, Whoopi. Oh, Vince, I love you guys. Take care. Bye. Oh, hey, Ted.
Whoopi Goldberg, everyone.
Oh, Ted, wait. No, Whoopi, go. He's dropped. Go. Whoopi, I don't agree with what you're doing, Whoopi. It's immoral.
I don't have the heart to tell her. I feel like we should say something. I know you always say something, but she's so nice when
Man,
she gets here. I don't want to like
I don't have the
bring it
heart.
up. I'll drop
I
little
don't have the
hints
heart.
about it, but yeah, it's just let them do
I
their thing.
don't.
They're adults.
I mean, oh God, they're making out in the truck, right? I could see it through the window. Oh,
Is it the truck from Made in America?
yeah, it's the exact same truck. It's funny you say that. Oh God, that woman's got to listen. She is a golden girl, and I don't mean those three white women or four. It was four or three, four of them.
There was 3 plus the mother, so 4.
Okay, so still three. Yeah, but she's listen. She's better than them. She's a real golden girl, and she's America's grandmother. Yes, she is. America's sweetheart. I love Whoopi. Well, thank you, Whoopi. Thank you again, and thank you, Vince, for dealing with her every episode, telling her how much of a crush she has on you, knowing your wife is probably in the room. So
I'm sure she says that
sorry,
to everyone. I'm sure she goes on Fallon, says it to him. I'm
all
sure
the
she
white
says it to
boys,
Stephen Colbert. Yeah.
all the white boys, they get it. You know, she has a history of liking the vanilla. So there you go,
She
Ted Danson.
does.
All right, kids. Well, with that being said, we're gonna wrap it up, right? I think it's about time to wrap
Yeah,
things
it's
up.
about that time.
You know, when we do these episodes, I always implore the audience, if we have one, hopefully we'll, every episode, at least somebody will watch, or some people will watch. I always say, hey, you guys, if you have an opinion or a topic or something you want me and Vince to talk about, DM one of us on social media. If you have my number, text me. If you have his number, text him. Other than that, post something in the comment section. Just show us that show us a little love. Show us that you're at least some of you are paying attention to this, and we will do our best to incorporate their ideas. Right, Vince? I think that's a good idea.
Absolutely, yeah. We want to be a fan-driven show. If someone says, "Oh, it'd be better if you did this," I mean, if it's a terrible idea, like we know off bat, then we won't do it. But for the most part, I think we're very open-minded to ideas about implementing into the show.
That's right, because terrible ideas stink. All right. With that being said, you guys, we are come to the end of this wonderful show. And usually, right about this time, like we always do at this time, I go for mine. I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky for your cute, lovable, big-cheeked, rather thick-nosed, big-headed, Oscar the Grouch guy host, full of pronouns and adjectives. Yes, that's me, LAREN Maximore.
And I am the sidekick married to the fly chick, Vince Eustace.
I'm going to have to get used to that because I'm going to have to get Vince used to that. Gotta hit him with the bad boys, yeah. And you guys, you have made it to the 4th episode of Popcorn
and booze.
See you guys. Bye-bye. That's all for now. Bye.